Welcome back. I'm Shivan Chandna. You're watching WION The World is One. In the next 30 minutes, we bring you a roundup of all that's happened around the world. Let's get started. This is Speed News. Israeli Defense Forces have said that it identified Yahya Sinwar as a terrorist in a building and did not know it was the Hamas chief himself during the attack in Rafah. IDF said Sinwar had been moving around in the tunnels in the area for quite some time and was attempting to escape to the north to safer areas. IDF says it is actively searching for Sinwar's brother Mohammed Sinwar and all Hamas military commanders. The death toll from Israeli airstrikes in Lebanon since the outbreak of the Israel-Hezbollah conflict on October 8th, 2023 has now risen to 2,412 and the number of wounded individuals has increased to over 11,000, according to a report released by the Lebanese Council of Ministers. The report said that during the past 24 hours itself, 96 airstrikes and shellings were recorded in various areas of Lebanon, bringing the total number of Israeli attacks to 10,246. According to the report, about a third of the Lebanese people have become displaced, and there is a risk of epidemic spreading among the displaced. Ukraine's President Zelensky has accused North Korea of deploying officers alongside Russia and preparing to send thousands of troops to help Moscow's war effort, describing it as a first step to the world war. Zelensky said that while he could not give the exact number that were on the ground, about 10,000 soldiers of North Korea are being prepared to fight against Ukrainians. His comments come as NATO's chief said there was no evidence of Pyongyang's presence at this stage. Ukraine's Western allies have yet to confirm Kiev's assertion that Pyongyang is sending troops. Ukraine's former commander-in-chief, Valery Zaluzhny, has expressed his support for President Zelensky's victory plan, despite the tensions between the two that led to his dismissal. Ukraine must clearly follow the plan. This is what Zaluzhny said in his first public appearance since his appointment as ambassador to the UK. Maxime Bernier, leader of right-wing People's Party of Canada, criticized Justin Trudeau government's foreign policy. He said Trudeau did not present solid evidence on allegations against Indian diplomats' involvement in the killing of pro-Khalistan leader. We're talking about terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar and his killing on Canadian soil. He has accused Prime Minister of using crisis to divert attention. British Foreign Secretary David Lammy will meet his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi and other top officials in Beijing as the two countries seek to rebuild frayed ties. UK says it noted Lamy would urge China to stop its political and economic support of the Russian war effort. Lamy will also hold meetings with British business leaders in the eastern megacity of Shanghai during his 2-day trip. Lamy is the first British cabinet minister to visit China since Labour Prime Minister Keir Starmer took office in July. Polls opened for early voting in North Carolina, which is a critical battleground state in the US. A critical battleground in the November 5th US presidential election, just weeks after Hurricane Helene left some residents still without power, running water, or phone services. North Carolina could be crucial in determining a winner in the race between US Vice President Kamala Harris, who's a Democrat, and Republican former President Donald Trump, because its voting preferences could swing either way. It's one of those pivotal swing states in the US. Opinion polls show a very tight race overall, with a handful of swing states likely to determine the winner. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un reminded his troops to treat South Korea as a hostile foreign enemy and insisted that the North would not hesitate to attack its rival if the South infringes upon its sovereignty. Kim Jong-un's comments at an army headquarters came after North Korea this week confirmed that it revised its constitution only to define South Korea as a designated hostile state for North Korea and blew up frontline road and rail links connecting North Korea with the South. The steps punctuated Kim Jong-un's calls for North Korea to abandon its long-standing goals of reconciling with the South and reflect his intent to only escalate tensions and increase leverage amid a deepening stalemate in diplomacy. Kenya's Senate voted to remove Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua from office in an impeachment trial on corruption and other allegations, hours after he was taken to hospital with chest pains. Senators approved 5 of 11 grounds for impeachment against Rigathi, making him the first sitting deputy president to be removed from office in impeachment proceedings. Rigathi faced allegations that included corruption, inciting ethnic divisions, and support for anti-government protests that saw demonstrators storm the parliament. Thousands of workers, teachers, indigenous people, they all marched in Lima for a second day of strikes to demand a salary raise and a crackdown on crime and corruption. Union leaders say their demands reflect commitments made by Peru's President Dina Boluarte's government. Hundreds of police in riot gear marched alongside the protest with no reports of confrontations or any kind of violence. The march ended at the Congress doors, where union leaders delivered their demands to lawmakers. Protesters expressed discontent with a recently approved law that requires police to raid properties only in the presence of a public defendant. They said the law shields corrupt politicians and can facilitate more serious organized crime. Indonesian police and military have started deploying at least 100,000 personnel across the capital of Jakarta as the country prepares for the inauguration of President-elect Prabowo Subianto on Sunday. According to reports, security personnel will be placed in key areas such as the parliamentary building where the inauguration takes place, the presidential palace and Jakarta's main roads. The Turkish-owned Ombre Bay ship has docked at a port in southwestern Ecuador as the South American country continues to suffer blackouts amid a severe drought that has affected its hydroelectric plants. The Turkish company Karpowership has said that the 110 megawatt plant commissioned by the government of President Daniel Noboa to relieve population affected by power cuts provides energy to 500,000 families in Ecuador. NASA has issued a warning of a stadium-sized asteroid heading straight towards Earth at high speed. The asteroid, about 710 feet wide, comparable to a stadium, will approach the planet today. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory is using an advanced tracking system to monitor the orbit of 2024 RV-50. According to their calculations, RV-50 is scheduled to pass Earth at a speed of 16 kilometers per second at a distance of about 7.42 million kilometers. NASA says the asteroid does not pose a threat to Earth and the risk of any significant impact on Earth is minimal. Severe floods hit villages in the southern area of Indonesia's Aceh province for more than 5 days, leaving thousands displaced and buildings damaged, according to local disaster mitigation agency. According to reports, around 30,000 residents have been impacted by the flooding, prompting mass evacuations. A 25-year-old Alabama man has been arrested for hacking the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission's X account to manipulate Bitcoin prices. In January, the hacker falsely claimed the SEC had approved Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, leading to a $1,000 spike in Bitcoin's value. The SEC quickly removed the post and clarified the misinformation. The incident has raised security concerns about X, especially since Elon Musk's acquisition of the social media platform 2 years ago. US federal prosecutors are increasing efforts to tackle the use of artificial intelligence tools for creating or altering child sex abuse images. This year, the Justice Department filed 2 criminal cases against individuals using generative AI for this purpose. The prosecutors have stated that more cases are anticipated, warning that AI could normalize such content and complicate law enforcement efforts to identify real victims. A company has fallen victim to a cyber attack after unknowingly hiring a North Korean hacker as a remote IT contractor. Now, this firm, which remains unnamed, was deceived by the hacker who falsified his employment history, and he also falsified his personal information, keeping the company in dark. Once granted access to the company's network, that's when his true plan came into action. He downloaded sensitive data and sent a ransom demand. This hacker utilized the company's remote tools and then accessed internal systems, collected the sensitive data during his 4-month employment. And researchers say that the hacker's salary was likely funneled to North Korea through a sophisticated laundering scheme. Britain's media regulator, Ofcom, has announced that it will outline the actions it expects social media companies to take against illegal content in December. The regulator added that platforms will have 3 months to assess the risks of harmful content, and those failing to act promptly will face consequences. Under Britain's new online safety law, which became official just last year, social media companies must address harmful content, particularly for children. Any kind of non-compliance to the law could lead to hefty fines or even a ban from operating in the UK. Over to some business updates next. China's economy grew at the slowest pace since early 2023 in the September quarter. Though consumption and industrial output figures for last month beat forecasts, a tumbling property sector remains a big challenge for Beijing as it tries to boost growth. The latest figures come as authorities have started to sharply increase stimulus measures in an effort to ensure the economy meets the government's 2024 growth target. A Reuters poll showed China's economy is likely to expand 4.8% this year. The economy has stuttered through uneven growth till now in this year. Industrial production outpaced domestic consumption, fanning deflationary risks amid the property downturn and mounting local government debt. Nestle, the world's biggest packaged food company, reported a fall in organic sales in the first 9 months of this year. It is also revamping senior leadership and its operating structure. The company has flagged shopper concerns around the election in the United States, putting further pressure on demand. Consumer-led anxiety is an issue for Nestle and other consumer companies as Americans' buying patterns shift ahead of the critical holiday shopping season. US consumer sentiment slipped in October and amid lingering frustration over high prices. Japan's core inflation rate slowed to 2.4% in September, down from 2.8% in August, and this is largely due to the government's rollout of temporary energy subsidies aimed at reducing gas and electricity bills. However, the core consumer price index, which includes oil products but excludes fresh food prices, exceeded market expectations. This indicates that underlying price pressures remain, and additionally, an index excluding the effects of fuel held steady. This suggests persistent inflationary trends that may influence the Bank of Japan's monetary policy. Crude oil futures is stabilized on Friday. This stability followed stronger than expected US retail sales data, which slightly boosted investor sentiment. However, both Brent and WTI are set for their longest weekly loss in over a month, down approximately 6%. This decline is attributed to mixed economic indicators from China and lowered global demand forecasts from OPEC and the International Energy Agency for 2024 and 2025. While geopolitical risks have eased, market participants remain cautious about recovering demand from China in light of recent stimulus measures. Investors are also pricing in a high likelihood of a Federal Reserve rate cut in November, which could further influence oil market dynamics.